Welcome to What is Going for new thought from the edge of Each week on OMTimes flagship radio show, veteran broadcaster, author, and media consultant Sandie conducts thought-provoking interviews with inspirational authors, artists, musicians, scientists, speakers, and filmmakers who are working at the point where spirituality and science meet consciousness at the very edge of Here is your host, Sandie Sedgbeer.
Hello. Did you know that your handwriting is far more than a succession of words put together as a means of communication? According to tonight's guest, your handwriting is a map of your attitude toward life, a diagram of your unconscious mind that offers clear indicators of how you feel about yourself, how much self-esteem you have, how you see life, your hidden fears, unique abilities, and untapped potentials. Moreover, purposefully changing the way you write can quite literally change your life and unlock your soul's potential. Trained at Stanford University as a peak performance coach, Vimala Rodgers is an educator, graphotherapist, master alphabetician, personal coach, and a motivational speaker whose focus is the inherent spirituality of the letters of the alphabet and the effect that each pen stroke has on your psyche and ultimately on your personality. The founder of the International Institute of Handwriting Studies in Palo Alto, California, Vimala Rodgers joins me tonight to share how changing your handwriting can transform your life by getting you unstuck from all of the self-limiting behaviors and patterns that have been holding you back and unlocking all your hidden gifts and talents. Vimala Rodgers, welcome.
Well, thank you, Sandie. I'm very pleased to be here. There's so much to say about handwriting, but the one thing I want to start with is that people hear handwriting and they think of two things, penmanship or graphology. I'm not involved with penmanship and I'm not a graphologist. My focus in life and in guiding other people and my own handwriting are the letters of the alphabet. And each one has what I call an inner voice. And as with human beings like you, Sandie, and with me and everybody, that we know, everyone has a personality. And they have a certain color eyes, certain color hair, they're certain, tall, and every letter has aspects like that. And when I look at the letters, when people write to me, I say, please write your first name. And when they do, I see that initial letter, I said, that is your major challenge, and not a challenge, your major opportunity in life, to be what that letter represents full out. And it's just a fascinating science, and graphologists they know nothing about the letters, but I've been fascinated with letters since I was in the crib. I only played with a little letter block, so I wouldn't play with dolls. But everyone has, when you're born and you start growing up, maybe by age of 5, there's something that fascinates you. And with me, it was always the letters. And when I would talk about them growing up, I was often made fun of. We never learned printing. We always learned cursive, from the first grade on. And I would comment on, well, let's do it this way, let's do it that way. And I was scolded, I was made fun, and so after a while, I just didn't say too much because I knew in a part of my heart that what I knew and what I was learning was valid. And in the 4th grade, I volunteered as wastebasket monitor, and I collected handwriting samples you can't believe. But I learned things by just doing little studies and, oh, look how she makes her R and he makes the R, and they all have the same personality traits. So and there's something in every listener here, maybe not about handwriting, but about something that by changing your handwriting, you can get rid of an attitude that says, I can't do that. I'm only female, I'm only male, I'm only short, I'm tall, whatever it is. There's an attitude that holds us back from being all we want to be and sharing our gifts with the world, and everybody has a gift. Now, Sandie, I don't know whether I just get to talk, for this full hour, or whether people are calling with questions or what. But
no, I have lots of questions for you, Vimala. Lots of questions.
You have questions?
I do, lots. We don't take calls.
Oh, beautiful. Ask them. Is it appropriate to ask them now?
Oh, absolutely.
Please do.
One of the very obvious ones, and you must get asked this a lot, is given your knowledge of handwriting, given the fact that you talk about how it unlocks your hidden gifts and your soul's potential, when you study your own handwriting, do you see in there your potential from childhood and your fascination with the alphabet?
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things I was really criticized about growing up, with handwriting, is, doing the cursive T and it was crossed in the middle. I said, no, that's just mediocre. You want to cross it on top, and everybody laughed, and everybody crossed their T's in the middle. And I came to learn, as you study and experience. I don't believe anything. I have to experience it. And I would collect samples of handwriting, and when I got geniuses' handwriting, when I got Einstein, all these famous people, they all crossed their T's on top, every blinking one of them. And then as I kept studying, handwriting and knowing them, and that was one letter that people, and other letters as well, but that was the one that the teachers just had a fit about. And that's the only class I didn't do well in school was handwriting, because I did it my way. But every letter has, what I said earlier, an inner voice. And to access that and to make it in a certain way will really, it takes 40 days of writing any particular letter in a particular way, exactly as I share with people. What happens, the brain patterns change. It's called neuroplasticity or cortical remapping. And when you generate a certain kind of energy, and it's not only handwriting, but it's anything, when you generate energy, you magnetize results. And the brain patterns simply shift physically in your brain and spiritually, and however you call it, inside, all of a sudden you begin to see yourself and other people differently. And the whole purpose of, looking at the letters and the handwriting is never to judge anyone, including yourself. And people say, well, you have to judge now and again. I said, well, when I was a Christian, I taught scriptures. And Matthew 1 and... James 4, it was Romans 2 and Matthew 1, where they say, don't judge anybody because you're going to get it back if you do. And it's also a law of magnetism and gender. And it's just because, I've studied math and I've taught it actually, and even Plato said in the 4th century BC that handwriting is a geometry of the soul. And when you really get into studying the letters and when you look, I look at an L or a Q like nobody else looks at an L or a Q because I see the energy in it. And to draw it in a certain way, you access a part of yourself. And that's what my whole life is all about, is guiding people in being who they really are underneath all the attitudes to say, I can't, I'm not, I'm just not good enough or something enough, or I don't know enough. And I know when I was in Palo Alto in the early 80s, there was one computer down there. IBM had it, the size of a warehouse, one computer. And Steve Jobs said, one of these days people are going to have computers in their home. Everybody thought he was a nut. So, if you grab your idea and don't let anybody take it away from you, that's what the handwriting does. And so let me ask listening to the show, if everybody listening would cross every T right on top, uppercase, lowercase, see what happens. And I say, don't believe anything of this because
Vimala, can I stop you there? Vimala, can I stop you there because we have so many questions to get through, and I really want to
another question, please.
Get to some of those tips towards the end of the show. What I want to know is, you say that the effect our handwriting has on our psyche and ultimately on our personality, or is it the other way around? Is it our handwriting, it's our psyche that impacts our handwriting?
The psyche is basically the subconscious mind, and it's a subconscious mind that interprets everything in life. For instance, if you and I are in the same room, Sandie, and something happened, you would interpret it differently than I would, because that's our background. That's how our mind works. And what really moves that pen is your subconscious mind. In other words, you're not good enough. Your subconscious mind or the psyche will say, no, you better cross your T midway down. Oh, you better do this with your L. And that is what moves the pen. It's a subconscious mind. And when you retrain how you write certain letters and are determined about it, the subconscious mind, that's when the brain patterns change. Physically and spiritually, they change.
So
it's powerful. I've done this for many years, and it works.
What's happened with the advent of computers? Because, prior to that, women especially had access to typewriters, but we weren't on them all day long. Now everybody is on a computer all day long. What are we doing to our neurology by not writing by hand and using a computer?
Well, it's very, and we did tests at Stanford because they were just starting to come out with little, laptops and things. And so we did studies, and the difference between, and we had 4 psychologists and 3 of us who do the handwriting. And when you use a keyboard to type messages, not music, it has nothing to do with it, but it's typing emails or letters or typing anything, you access the reptilian part of your brain, the non-social, undeveloped part of your brain. When you pick up a pen and use it to write the same things, you access the prefrontal lobe, the creative part of your brain. We did studies, and the psychologists were floored, and they all got pens. So anyway.
So there's 2 things going on here. You're talking about the letters and the impact of the letters, and we're also talking about the handwriting, the shape, etc. And that it reminds me of Linda Goodman, the astrologer's work, when she used to talk about words having druids, and each word had its own angel or druid that gave it a certain quality. And you talk in your book, Your Handwriting Can Change Your Life, about the qualities of different letters. Why do letters have qualities?
Letters have qualities because they are everything in the world. You look around, everything lives in a family. And the letters of the alphabet, there are 7 families in the alphabet. I don't teach them ABC, I teach them by family. And the first one is the family of communication. That's what we do when we first are born. We make noises, we talk, and then we learn how to relate to other people. And it just goes down. When you do the first 5, the first 5 letters and then the 4, and how we evolve as human beings, and each one has a particular energy within it. And with each letter, as they're with you, the color of your hair, the color of your eyes, the shape of your face, all of that, those are called aspects. And each letter has 21 aspects. I mean, it's just
I'm going to hold you there, Vimala. I'm going to hold you there because we need to go to break, and we'll come back to this straight afterwards. You're listening to What is Going On. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, and my guest is founder of the Institute of Integral Handwriting Studies, Vimala Rodgers. We'll be back in a few moments.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Change and growth are part of natural life and also part of your spiritual life. Everyone needs support and guidance, especially during life passages. Upgrade yourself with the OMTimes Experts program. With OMTimes Experts, you have access to the best intuitive coaches, spiritual teachers, counselors, astrologists, and oracles. Our team was carefully selected so you can trust. Find out more at experts.omtimes.com.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
My name is Meera Batra, and this is How I Live United. Many families have come to America for a better life. I advocate for these families with United Way. United Way empowers them to see opportunities available. We help them get involved with their kids' schools and network within the community. My name is Meera Batra. I help families see opportunity and succeed. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Vimala Rodgers, prior to the break, you were telling us about the aspects or powers that each letter has.
Right, and you mentioned something about, I forget who it was, something about a druid. I don't know what that's all about.
Word druids, yes.
Okay, but every letter of the alphabet has a guardian protector, every one. And there's a particular energy within that letter that has the energy of that guardian. And in one of my books, in fact, it was the kit called Transform Your Life Through Handwriting. Do you have that one?
I have that one.
Okay, and that mentions the guardian in yes. For every letter. And there's an energy within the letter that is reflected in that particular guardian, and it's as I tell people, I say, you don't go out on the internet and look up, Micah, whoever the angel is. Begin to write every day with a letter that Micah represents, and begin to speak, whether silently or out loud, to that being. We can't see angels, but they are here. It's just like prayer. You can't see the prayer, but you certainly can speak it. And the guardians are very, very important. The one aspect I didn't put in the Transform book was the color. Every letter has a color, and every letter has so. It's just when you get it, the S is your letter, and the S, the letter, the initial of our first name, not nickname, but a real name, indicates the attitude we are here to master, absolutely master, and help heal the world in doing so. The letter S represents balance. In other words, pray as much as you play, work as much as you run. I mean, it's a balance in life. And most often S people tend to go overboard, and they do so much, and which is fine, but you need just write a few lines of your S's every day.
Every day.
And it'll really put you in balance. I know because I have many things going on, and I don't want to get the aspects of things confused. What am I supposed to be doing here? So I write 3 lines of S's every day. I have for about 20 years. Because
so why do you write S's?
Pardon me?
Why do you write S's and not V's?
Why do I write
an
S's?
S? Yes, and not a V.
Because S is a letter of balance.
Oh, okay, right.
And I write 1 line of V's every day because it's my letter. But whatever attitude you want to really enforce in your life, that's the letter I say. Write 3 lines of that every day. The letter G is what I have all my students, all my clients write 1 letter every day. Because the letter G is of gratitude. It says, everything in my life is a gift. Everything and everyone, no exception. And when you can live that letter and write it every day and change the patterns in your brain, all of a sudden, people will probably think you're in love or something because you're nice to everybody. You're friendly, you're open, because you're accepting them as they are. And the one thing that people really need to know about the alphabet is that there's no judgments. Because whatever you judge, you're going to get back. So looking at a letter and saying, oh, this person has no self-esteem, you don't put it that way. You speak it beautifully. You say, oh, if you made your H this way, see what'll happen. And there's never a negative comment made. But the person said, I don't like to make the H. Well, in all the books I've written, I always put the 5 noble truths, the first one of which is, there's no such thing as good or bad handwriting. People often say, oh, mine's atrocious. Oh, it's terrible. I said, rephrase that and call it casual. That way there's no judgment.
What are the other noble truths?
What are the 5 noble truths?
Yeah, you
well, the first one is, I put them in each one of my books, and the first one is, there's no such thing as good or bad people. We're all children of God. Some of us just hide it better than other people. But the 5 noble truths are basically, the first one is, I'm trying to see if I have it here.
Good or bad
exactly.
people. No such thing as good or bad handwriting. I'm glad to hear
there's
that.
There's no good or bad handwriting.
People complain about mine.
And the second one also, when you have difficulty with a particular letter, it's the attitude it reflects that you have difficulty with in your life. And if you say are in a relationship and it isn't working and you want to change your handwriting to make it work, remember there are 2 people in every, at least 2 people, in every relationship. And it's never, when we want to blame other people for this or that, and it just isn't what's going on. It's always understandings and misunderstandings are 2-way streets. And
you talk about number 2, about the frequency with which a writing habit occurs. And I mean, everybody develops their own style. I've noticed recently, since paying attention to my handwriting after reading your books, is that I have breaks in words.
Thank you. I'm so glad.
Is that a good thing?
You don't want to connect every letter within a word. If it's 5 letters or longer, pick up your pen in the middle of the word. Don't let everything be connected. Thank you for mentioning that. It's very, very important.
So,
That's one of the things we learned in school, connect all the letters. And another thing, don't use lined paper.
Well,
you want to use unlined paper. Yeah, and because when it's lined paper, it's like you're following somebody else's idea. And when you turn it in the landscape way, the long way, it's also unfamiliar. You are starting an unfamiliar habit that you want to have be a part of your personality, who you are, who your gifts are in the world. So it's unlined paper. And what I do, I go to an art goods store and get a sketch pad because they're 8.5 by 11 and the paper is unlined.
Okay, so, let me just go back to your number 2, Noble Truth, because that was the frequency with which a writing habit occurs, is the frequency with which the quality it represents. When I mentioned that I frequently, in fact always, have gaps in words, is that a writing habit with a quality that I need to know what it represents?
Well, if you know, and I mentioned breaking up words, and when you break up words consistently like that, not picking up the pen with every letter, but picking it up consistently within words, it's I learned that one from engineers. It's the attitude of gaining insights, and I'm sure everybody listening knows who Nikola Tesla was. I have 42 pages of his handwriting. I also have Einstein's handwriting, and Mother Teresa, all these very, very well-known people. And they all pick up their pen within words at least once. It's a way, when I speak to men, I call it insights. When I speak to women, I call it intuition. But it's all of a sudden you get this idea, and you think, boy, where'd that come from? And that's what that space allows. When you connect everything, there's no space for those ideas to show up. So I really appreciate your mentioning that.
Okay. So Noble Truth number 3, you say that in looking at the handwriting of someone with whom you're in a relationship, both handwritings are required if you want to find out the source of the upsets and what's activating them. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, when we have an upset with somebody, we're blaming them for something. Mm-hmm. When you begin to look at your handwriting with theirs, you can see that, maybe I'm involved in this relationship, and maybe, maybe there's something I'm not doing or being that I need to do or be. So you look at, and if you look at the other person's handwriting, you want to know what their attitudes are, and then you can see how attitudes might clash, disagree, and that's when I tell people, go write a line of O's, because the O is the letters of speaking the absolute truth. But I don't mean, don't confuse truth with fact. And if you listen to my CDs, the last one about Randall, the little boy who had problems, he wasn't well developed, and he made a birthday card for me, and because I taught him, I'm an organic gardener, I taught him how to garden and raise worms, and we just had a good time together. Well, he found out it was my birthday. So he came to my door, and he handed me this piece of very strange-looking construction paper folded funny, and I said, oh, thank you. And I said, look at all these colors on the front. Now, if I had spoken the facts, I would have said, oh, I know you can't fold paper well, but that's okay, I love it. Or, look at all these colors. What do they represent? It's hard to tell, but I know you had your heart in it. That's telling facts. But to tell the truth is, oh, this is beautiful, your own drawing. And then to open it up and see these slash marks, I could have said, what are these all about? But I said, you even made a cake, and those are the candles on the cake, aren't they? And he just started to laugh and hug. And then I said, your mama helped you do this card, didn't she? He said, oh, no, all me. And it was just, that's how you speak the truth. You speak to the inner spirit in the other person. You don't speak to, with the need to be right, with the need to speak the facts. Don't confuse fact with truth, because truth always is healing for the other person. A fact often is not. And anyway.
Let's look at number 4. The degree of difficulty in mastering a stroke change is directly proportional to the value it will have in your life. The greater the difficulty, the greater the value. I have a real problem getting the R's right.
Which kind, lowercase or uppercase?
Lowercase.
Both?
No, lowercase. The uppercase,
just the lowercase. Now, do you make
the
Tesla R, or do you make the one that has the bar across the top with a little loop?
I try to do the little loop and the bar, but never quite get it right.
Then I'd say slow down, because that particular R that you're talking about is the R of a creative writer, a poet, a dramatist, and of course one trait doesn't stand alone, but it's every letter is a clue to the personality of the person. So and you probably have written books, I don't know that, but
yes.
There's a certain part of your psyche that says, ooh, let's go write some books, and slow down when you make lines of the R, the lowercase r, and put that little loop at the top left, and just see what happens. And it takes 40 days for the brain patterns to shift. And it was Santiago Ramon Cajal, who was a father of modern neuroscience, who invented the term neuroplasticity. And we did, many times at Stanford, we had all kinds of students and faculty and all doing writing changes, and those who stuck with them and really did it for 40 days had tremendous changes. I have quite a few clients around the world, in fact, a few students around the world as well, and who want to teach this. And one of my goals is to get it in elementary schools in the United States, where 42 states no longer teach cursive. And if you see kids, I don't know how it is where you are, but walking down the street here in California, they're walking with these cell phones in their hands, they're talking to that, but they're not communicating with each other. And you look at a Starbucks or whatever, and people are sitting across from each other, and they're not talking, they're looking at their laptops or their iPads, and that's what's happening to the brain. It's part of the brain's deteriorating. And anyway, so, but you had that R above all, Sandie. Practice and do a whole line of that R every day, if not more than one.
I've got about 3, if not 4, half-finished books on the go, so I will practice that because I need to get them done. We're going to go to a break now, Vimala. We'll be back shortly. You're listening to What is Going On. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, and I'm speaking with author, alphabetician, and founder of the Institute of Integral Handwriting Studies, Vimala Rodgers. And we're talking about how to unlock your soul's potential by changing your handwriting. We'll be back after the break.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM-FM. Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
I'm Fidel Nshombo. I was born in a city called the Bukavu in the Congo. We were a loving family, and then, boom, everything that I had disappeared in a single day. People think that when you are a refugee and they resettle you to America and all your problems are done. They don't understand that that's the beginning of everything. I was not born a refugee. I was made one.
It's time we welcome refugee families with open arms. Learn more at embracerefugees.org, brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome back, Vimala Rodgers. Before we move on to talking about more hidden meanings in the letters of the alphabet, I just want to touch on Noble Truth number 5. You say that the moment you declare with your pen that you're
nobody likes that
one
very much.
No,
but
to bring
because it's based on the principle of whenever you generate, it's the law of physics. I used to teach math. The law of physics says when you generate energy with intent, you magnetize results. That's what changing the letters are all about. You have energy in each letter, and you're writing one with that. For 40 days, you're doing that, generating, and you magnetize results. So when many people, in fact, I had, people back east, who have trouble, say adults, they're in their 40s or 50s, and they have trouble relating to their parent, usually their mother, and she said, I never get along with her because, and So I'm thinking of one client in particular, and she changed. I said, I want you to write these letters every day. She had a terrible time, but she was determined to do it. And that was about a year and a half ago. And now she and her mom go shopping together, have fun together, because she has given up her attitude. And we always want to blame the other person. But when she said, I want to work better with my mom, that was her. I said, well, I promise you, she will really be in your life more often because you've put out an intention. I want to clean up an issue with this person. And it happens again and again with parents most often, but with maybe a friend at school, maybe a teacher. But when you begin to change your handwriting to let go of a negative judgment in some regard about that person, all of a sudden that person will appear. Even if your mom's been dead 20 years, all of a sudden someone who is like her will be in your life. It's just an opportunity to clean it up.
So is it one particular specific letter that you have to start practicing, or is it different according to the situation?
I usually give people 3 letters to change. If it deals with a relation, depends on the kind of relationship, but the very hardest letter for everyone to change, in my experience of 30 years of doing this, is the letter M as in marvelous, the uppercase M. People, when you make you make the arcades, those curvy sharp, and you want to pull them apart when you get after the first one, and let the second one breathe and be shorter. I have it all in the book, but the M, and it's with people with the letter M, they usually have a very need to control other people or fix things and fix their attitudes or whatever. But when they change that M and they really do it, and once you've done it for 40 days, of course, you want to make it a habit. The M is a letter of divine grace, and the declaration is, I give up the need to control. Divine grace fuels my life. And that letter alone has magnetized so many results in the clients I've had through the years. They say, I always thought it was him. I always thought it was her. And I was just trying to fix the person, wanted them to be my way, and therefore, and all of a sudden, all that fell away.
So if that letter M was somebody's initial, like, one of my sisters has M as her initial, does that mean that person has a need to control?
Oh, yes, definitely. The ones I'm thinking of right now, I get a long list of them in my brain. And it's not bad. I mean, they want to be in charge. And many times that's what they need to do. But how to be in charge positively is one way, and how to do it in a very dictatorial way is another. So, I mean, but there's a positive and negative for every single letter. And the M, as I say, is the hardest because it is. It depends on the person moving the pen. But the M and the one that's hardest for women is the letter C, as in chocolate. And, I've been done workshops and classes, and the women will say, well, I can do that. I said, go up to the board. And they write a C on the board, has a little hook in it or a curl or something. I said, oh, no. All you want to do is have a complete 3/4 circle that's not shut. I mean, have it like sliced in half. And it's just no curls, no hooks, just a beautiful 3/4 of a circle, and with the open to the white, very right, because the right side of the page is the future.
And C is the letter of?
It's just, pardon me?
C is the letter of? What is C?
Oh, C is a letter of understanding, and I give the letter C represents understanding. I won't say God, but I'll say how the universe works. In other words, and C also has to do with feminine figure. If you have hooks or curls, you can't say it just by itself, but it's a person who has difficulty with a woman or women in general. And if a C hooker, a person who hooks their C and goes to work in a company, I would suggest they never have a female boss, or they never be a female boss. So just keep it clean and open.
I notice in your book, Your Handwriting Can Change Your Life, the letter E, the letter of tolerance. I mean, this is something that we really need right now. So are you, particularly keen on encouraging people to practice the letter E?
Everybody. In fact, in one of my books, or maybe, I think I put it out on the internet somewhere in a blog, that years ago in Palo Alto, we had lots of students, and we had, I think, 40 of them in one class. And at the end of every year, we all took on one letter to write 3 lines of every day and the declaration along with it. And we all decided on one December day to take on the letter E, uppercase and lowercase. And whether it be a teardrop E lower or the epsilon lower, we took them all on. And one of the ladies, this is Palo Alto, one of the ladies said, tell you what, let's make a bumper sticker and with the declaration, because the declaration is very simple. It's, I may be wrong. Tell me more about what you see. So we had a bumper sticker made, and all 40 of us put the bumper sticker on it. You don't do bumper stickers in Palo Alto, but we did. And all it said was, I may be wrong. And everyone in that class came back the next month and said, everybody stopped me and said, what does that mean? And when I would respond, well, it just means, I may be wrong. Just tell me your view so I can understand it better. And they look at you and say, yeah, right. And from that exercise alone, and that was, golly, by February, everybody had the same response. It just showed all of us that the need to be right is what is ruining the world. If everybody in the world would sit down and write, epsilon, do lines of E's every day, we could sit and have discussions instead of arguments. Because we argue because we're right. We want to be right instead of opening our hearts and listening to the other side. And the E is a powerful letter, powerful letter. And people say, well, with a little one, do I do the little loop? Which I would call the teardrop E, because it looks like one. I said, do those sometime, and do the epsilon E sometime, for the lowercase as well. So vary them. But the E is a powerful letter. Well, they all are in their own way, but giving up the need to be right, oh boy. And the declaration is simple. I may be wrong. And nobody believes you when you say that.
The letter Z, or Z as we say in England, the letter of perfect contentment. Now that's a letter that doesn't get used a lot, I would think, in the average daily handwriting. And it's interesting that so many people are not content.
No, and the Z, it's like the grandfather looking back on his alphabet and all the meanings and attitudes and saying, well, everything's unfolding perfectly. I'm at peace. And very few of us, especially look at what's going on down in Texas, but to just be at peace with it and know it's unfolding as it should, we don't get that. And I personally, this whole Houston, flood and all is just horrific. But just to accept it and say it's happening, and I just have to accept that it's happening. How can I help? And that would be the next question. How can I help? If I see a situation that I would not personally create, how can I help and turn it around? And I'm sure that you and everybody else has gone to their TV and seen those thousands and thousands of people, up to their waist in water. It's just shocking.
Yeah.
But one of the many things that has really touched me is so many hundreds of people from around the world are coming there to help, to save the people. And so, and then I think it was it Donald Trump who says, we're going to make America great again? America is great. And that is greatness. Going to help somebody where you don't know who they are, you don't know what, it's going to cost you money to drive there, whatever. But so many thousands of people from around the world are going down to Houston and that area to help people with no reward for them. They're just going to save lives. To me, that is what America is all about. And America is great already. Thank you. I'm not a politician anyway.
If people practice the letter E, then perhaps we'll all develop more tolerance to one another. And many of those problems will go away.
Absolutely. And that E it's a change maker. And if you know anyone who really has difficulty with getting along with people, say, I bet their name starts with an E. But have them just write lines of it and see what it feels like. Say, well, why would I write lots of E's? Because E is your letter. Now, just write lines of it and see what it feels like. And actually, go ahead.
I was going to say, tell me about angles, because you talked earlier about the letter T, and you said about placing the crossbar of the lowercase t at the very top, and that unleashes willpower for manifesting our vision. But the uppercase T is not straight, it's at an angle. Why is one straight?
You mean the bar on the top of the T?
Yes.
It tilts up slightly because when I guess the T would be when anything goes slightly up, it's positive. It's very, very positive. And to have that T crossbar, it can go straight across, but if it tips up just a little bit, it's very positive. If it tips down, it's bad. You don't want to do that. You don't want to have your T crossbar, tilting downward. It's very controlling.
Okay, so what about the I then? Because you've also got the uppercase I, it tilts upwards. The lowercase obviously doesn't have one, just has the dot.
Right, and that's, again, an uppercase, and the T and the I both have that crossbar at the top that goes slightly up, which is very, very positive. Very, very positive. But never have one of those crossbars angle downwards, ever. Because that brings out the negativity of it. So every time you do a T or an uppercase I, just have that tilt up slightly. It adds heart energy to it, positive energy to it, and yeah.
So the direction of our handwriting, the sloping, if it's sloping to the right and maybe, falling down the page, or sloping to the left and moving up the page, what's the difference there?
It's best if the reason I suggest that the letters are vertical, and my alphabet is just a hair to the right, just a breath, because it's like climbing a mountain. If you're on one side of the mountain, you can only see that. If you're on the other side, like it would be handwriting backwards, you can only see that. When you're on the top of the mountain, you get a complete view of everything, and that's what the vertical slant is all about. It's very clear seeing, not when you have your handwriting slanting way to the right, and there's a lot of people who still do that when they write, you get so involved in what's going on, you miss the nuances. You miss the little things that would make a difference. And when handwriting, that you're writing slopes to the left, it's a person who really, they're just not sure of themselves. And all I tell them is, just straighten it up and look at the letter of, your first name. And that's what we would work on there. But when people change the direction, their handwriting, they change the direction of their focus in life. It's beautiful.
You say that handwriting can be a kind of meditation or yoga. How so?
It is, and funny mentioning yoga. I was going to mention this at the beginning, and I forgot. I've studied handwriting, everything in handwriting I could possibly imagine, but I'm also very well acquainted with the teachings of India and Sanskrit. And I was reading, this is not 1981, I was reading the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Song of God, and I got to chapter 16, and I opened it up, and Lord Krishna says, and it took my breath away, there are 26 qualities we must perfect before we can be free. And I go, oh my word. So I went through the chapter, and every attitude or every quality represented a letter in our alphabet. And there's 26.
Interesting. You're listening to What is Going On. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, and I'm speaking with author, personal coach, and graphotherapist Vimala Rodgers about how it only takes 40 days to rewire your brain, redefine your self-image, and transform your life by adopting a new style of handwriting. We'll be back with more after the break.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Spiritual, metaphysical, green living, psychic, alternative healing, life coaching. Do any of these or similar terms apply to your business or cause? If so, you are in a niche market with a very specific audience. Conscious Gate PR is the world's leading conscious public relations agency. With a global reach of over 4 million and growing, we offer comprehensive media campaigns to our targeted market. Learn more at ConsciousGatesPR.com. Conscious marketing for conscious minds.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living. A chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me, and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearm storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Vimala Rodgers, you developed your own font. Why did what inspired you to do that? That must be quite an undertaking.
Well, to write my first book is called Change Your Handwriting, Change Your Life. And what happened, the reason I do this for people is say, change your writing and get your life together, because I didn't realize that would happen. I knew it changed attitudes here and there in me, but I didn't. Usually people don't really run forward into their career in life until a tragedy hits, and it did with me, and that's what woke me up. And I figured, well, I've been made fun of my whole life. I'm just going to write this book anyway, and it was very well received. And that was 1992, I think, and it was called Change Your Handwriting, Change Your Life. And then after that, it was so well received, I thought, well, I'm going to write a book that people can use, and they don't need me. And just look at the letter, see how it's done, do it yourself, and that's what Your Handwriting Can Change Your Life is all about. And I have 5 other books, but one of my big goals, if anybody listening can help in this way, I would love to get the Vimala handwriting system in elementary schools in this country, every elementary school possible. I would like to train the teachers because it's very basic. And when you write the letters, I've studied the formation of every stroke in the Vimala alphabet, and each one accesses soul qualities. In other words, the most desirable part of ourselves we know we are, but we often hide it. When you use the Vimala alphabet, it comes forward. And I had a teacher up in Seattle who just said her kid, she's from Waldorf, and apparently they keep the same teacher all the way from first through whatever. And she said she started the kids' handwriting in 2nd grade, and by 6th grade they were the kindest, the most intelligent, the most support. I mean, just every quality was evidence in them, and they the class won prizes for being that way and for being generous and kind. And so when you begin to use the alphabet, you'll feel the difference. You'll absolutely feel the difference. And there was a little boy who was 8 years old, and his mom wrote every day before she took him to school. He said, "Why do you write every morning?" She said, "Because it makes me feel better about myself." So one day he said, "I'm going to write with you." So they started writing together in the morning. And then one morning she said he was just looking at his paper and writing whatever letters, and he said, "You know what, Mom? When we write together like this, it feels like we're praying." And that's what adults don't quite get that, but it's a spiritual practice. It's not just handwriting or penmanship, God forbid. It's a spiritual practice, and every time you write one of the Vimala letters, you're touching your soul. And what a way to go out in the world. It's beautiful.
Well, you actually have your font available for people to install on their own computers. And in fact, I've had it installed on mine for some time. I use the font to spell out my name on the header of my website. But what I want to ask you is this. If I was to use that font for every single email or document that I write, would it be as useful to me as practicing with my hand?
No, and the reason it wouldn't is that if you send an email written in my font, the recipient has to have the email on their computer.
Of course, yeah.
So, but no, it would not be the same because you're using a computer. But no, it's the subconscious mind moving the pen. That's what's very, very important.
So why create the font for people then?
Well, the font, because, as I say, I worked in Palo Alto for a long time, and I know engineers, and they need something to go by. And I said, okay, and they asked if I create a font. And I said, no, I'm not going to create a font, then you'll never pick up your pen. And a couple of them said, well, if you create the font, then we'll have something to imitate. So I did, and people use it, but not as a substitute for handwriting at all. Okay. But often people want their logos done in this, or their promotional material, and people are drawn to it because they may not know the energy they're looking at, but it's very healing. And it draws people, the heart energy of the letters draws people to it. So, anyway.
So tell us about your interactive learning program. We've got probably about 5 more minutes at the most. So tell us about that and how it would benefit people.
Well, I've taught a writing program for, 29 years now, and this last year I didn't teach at all because I've been busy writing. But if I found enough people who were willing to take a weekend course, and it would be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and leaving Sunday, mid-morning, I was going to put a class together in October, but I wasn't sure there was enough interest. I would love more than anything to have teachers come And from what we're doing today on your show, I'd love it if people just bought Your Handwriting Can Change Your Life, and just because I wrote it for people, I didn't write them so they'd have to come to me, but they could get a good overview of what this is all about and what a difference it would make. If anyone would be interested in a 4-day class, my email, I think you have it on your website or it's somewhere there. It's just very simple, iihs.com. And go out and or send me an email to teachers@iihs.com. And I'd really, if I had at least a dozen people who are really interested in taking this, information out in the world, especially with children, I'd love it if teachers could come. I would just love it. So, but the book is called Your Handwriting Can Change Your Life. And the one thing, there's so much to say about the alphabets. And there are many. I've studied 46 alphabets, and it's just everyone is sacred. In fact, anyway.
Okay, well, we've only got a few minutes left, so let's give people a few more tips here. On the back of your book, Your Handwriting Can Change Your Life, it says that if you want to stick to that diet, you can change the way you write the letter T. Why?
Self-discipline.
Self-discipline. Yeah. Okay. And if you don't want to be overlooked for promotion, change the letter G.
Right. And the letter G is a way of gratitude. Everything is a gift.
Gratitude.
Everything and everyone.
Okay. If you've got shyness or stage fright, you can change the letter A.
Right, and the letter A starts tomorrow. It's for every day of the month, I have a letter, and the letter A is the most sacred letter in all alphabets I studied, every single one. And to make the Vimala A, which people can see it in the book, it's just don't do that big, fat, round A, whatever you do. That's very ego-based. When you do the uppercase A, it looks like an inverted V with a horizontal loop in the middle. It's very powerful. In fact, I named one of my daughters Amanda, A-M-A-N-D-A. But it's the letter of the spiritual star. In other words, when you speak to people, you're not here to convert them to anything. You're not here to you just really are speaking to the spirit in that person. And you and I know the difference when you're speaking from your soul and when you're speaking from your mind. Get out of your mind, get into your heart, get into your soul. And the A, if anyone listening has an uppercase name starts with the letter A, please look at my book or go out to my website and take it off the website. But that uppercase A is one of the most powerful, I would say the most spiritual letter in all alphabets, including Hebrew and the Zoroastrian. The Avesta, I could mention all these alphabets, but the A is the one letter that we really all want to, just make it natural, make it a natural letter, and also the letter E, and then I talk about the letter U. I could talk about all the letters, but they are 26 qualities we must perfect before being able to be free. And it's literally by starting with A and going to Z, it's the path of purification. You're cleaning up your ego. You're not getting rid of it. You're healing it. So the soul and the ego can dance together. So that's what this is all about.
In numerology, obviously the letters have numbers and frequencies associated with those numbers. And if you change the letter, you're changing the frequency of your name or something. What happens in your system if I was to change one of the letters, the way I spell my name, for example? Like Sandie, some people spell it S-A-N-D-Y. I spell it S-A-N-D-I-E. What change does that actually create?
The thing is, I can't guess, but I would have to experience it. But just correct people. Tell them to put the I. The Y is all letters are important. They have their different meaning. But if it's your name, you must correct people and have them spell it correctly. Very, very important. And if people start putting the Y in Sandie, say, oh, no, I don't spell it that way. And don't make them wrong. Just say, here's how I do it. I like that I and the E at the end.
So in your system, is it actually changing the frequency?
It is changing, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And every letter, and there's one thing, too, you mentioned frequencies and numbers. From ancient teachings of geometry, and it happened to me today, it's such a gift. When you see triple digits, like 3 7s in a row, 3 9s in a row, it's angelic protection. The one triple digit anybody wants to see anywhere, and just look for it, is a 111. That means you are really being looked after in a very powerful way. And you'll see them on license. I don't know about where you are, but license plates or buildings or addresses, you know, on buildings. But a 111 really means you're being taken care of in a very special way that day.
Well, I know so many people who are constantly talking about how they see these numbers all the time.
Beautiful. And numbers, and I used to, you know, geometry is one of my favorite things too. And it's just when you see the number of every letter has a number. You know, it's A, O, D, G, Q, P, Y. They all have numbers. That number represents something. So anyway, I could teach a whole class on this phone.
We're out of time now, but it's been a delight talking with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sandie, for having me on the show. God bless you all.
Your Handwriting Can Change Your Life is published by Simon & Schuster. For more information about Vimala Rodgers' Transform Your Life Through Handwriting kit, books, and interactive programs, and some free downloads as well, visit www.alphabeticalblessings.com, and you can also find Vimala at www.iihs.com. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope you'll be with me again at the same time next week. Till then, it's goodbye from me.